Today we're discussing how aeronautical engineering will help with sustainable and development in the future. I believe that the different types of fuels that aeroplanes will use will be of the biggest benefit.
John, would you
I'll answer
start?
the same question, however, I've decided to cover engines, the problems faced, and what different companies are doing to solve these issues.
So I have basically decided on like the main issues we've got to focus on. So it's like, and the main issue and global warming and climate change is CO2 in the atmosphere, and to like solve that, we need to come up with like more advanced technology like electric airplanes.
Cool. And I will be talking about how we can affect the fuel consumption due to the aerodynamics of the wings, and how that in a sort of better society where everything is consumed and there's no sort of non-renewable resources being used, how that will affect the environment and everything like that. Okay. Brandon, would you like to give your point first?
Alright. The emissions created by aeroplanes are a major factor in climate change, and to rectify that, different modes of fuel need to be created in order for it to be solved. That didn't make any sense. The first solution that I looked into was biofuel. Biofuel is made from the fermenting of plants or wasted material and is carbon neutral once the farm has been created. However, creating biofuel, you need a lot of land and competes with food, which can cause things such as famines and generally increasing the price of food. And also, because of the fact that you have to cut down trees or something to create the farm, it's actually projected that it could be up to 90%, produce up to 90% more carbon dioxide in the end than the current fuel methods. Anybody got any questions?
Yeah, so obviously when you're using, say, plants and things like that, by the time you finish burning the fuel, I thought the emissions would be the carbon dioxide levels would be the same as before, so they absorb as much as they would give out. So do you think that's a way just to keep a level on the carbon emissions rather than increase or decrease them? So just keep them on a similar level so that we don't have any major effects negatively?
No, unfortunately, because to create a farm for biofuel, you either have to cut down a forest to create the farm, or you have to, take a meadow or something, and the carbon that those plants would have absorbed, they instead don't absorb it, and that creates a lot of backlash.
Will, what's your opinion?
Well, my question would be, do you think that this is, in your own thoughts, do you think this is a viable long-term solution, or just a step onto something, just a stepping stone, or a long-term solution?
Potentially it could work long term, but because of the major problems that exist currently, it's just not feasible right now.
Okay. Will, would you like to put your opinions across on what you researched?
Okay. So I did how aero companies are helping develop their internal combustion turbofans and jet propulsion. So obviously in 2015 there were 3.5 billion people who travelled by air, and they're predicting by 2030 there'll be up to 6 billion people travelling. And obviously this means more flights, and then so and then more flights comes more fuel being burned. More fuel being burned means more carbon dioxide in addition to nitrous oxide, which is a poisonous gas, which is released when the air in the engine is burnt at a high temperature, where obviously air is about 70% nitrogen, which in the high temperatures of an engine, it doesn't produce that much thrust, but is also a pollutant. So Pratt & Whitney, for example, with their new current generation of jets, they offer a 16% reduction in fuel consumption, and they aim to reduce the amount of nitrous oxide their engines produce in the future by up to 50% beyond what regulations already call for. Rolls-Royce have set themselves a standard of a 30% reduction in their next generation of engines over what their engines are currently already rated at. And General Electric, in their current engine, which is powering the 777, that is a 10% improvement over their previous engine. And but by 2050, the European Commission wants a 70% reduction in CO2 per passenger. And I believe that these goals that these companies have set are realistic and that they will be met, which hopefully will result in a long-term solution, even with internal combustion power.
Mm-hmm. Has anyone got any questions for him about it?
So is it made clear how they're going to do any of that? Or?
Unfortunately, in the time I had to research this, the websites were quite vague in how specifically they were going to do this. It was more about the goals they've set themselves, or like their briefs, not their briefs, their specifications for the next generation of jets.
So on my class, okay, so basically, is there anything on a larger scale of things, so like which, and they've already set out a plan, and they've got like everything sorted out, but are they thinking of like expanding out, because you've said, like as you said, it's, and they think it's a realistic goal and it's achievable, and do you think there's anything that's like, and that could be like improved, as in like stretched out, anything that could go beyond what they're making right now?
That's an interesting question. Beyond what they're making right now, most certainly. I mean, every single design goes through iterations, and these are iterations that have gone back since the 1950s or 1940s even. And for example, the Trent that was created was both Pratt & Whitney and Rolls-Royce were competing for that, and that step forward, that was only really a development of the jet engine. That step forward allowed a vast improvement in fuel efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I believe that these can work to our favour.
Good. Do you think in, say, 100 years down the line we could end up with completely clean power and engines using similar methods as to what you've researched and similar engines? Do you think we could end up using just energy like electricity, or do you think it's not foreseeable within the next 100 years?
For something with internal combustion, I don't believe that this is particularly a sustainable way of doing things, but it's certainly improvement over the way it is at present. I believe it will take another revolution in either a fuel source or powertrain of some kind to actually truly make a sustainable aircraft.
Mm-hmm. Edwin, would you like to give us your opinion?
Yeah, of course.
On your topic?
Yes, I'll just say like because at the minute there are a lot of problems that's going on with the Earth right now, especially including like the actual climate change, and I've got to consider like the ozone layer and like and things that are actually going on with them, I'd say like that global warming and air pollution is two of the biggest threats right now to climate change and global warming. Well, not and to and the actual environment being affected. So it affects things like human life, the wildlife, and political stability. So we need to find like solutions and I would need to see like on the right measures. We've got to take the right measures to come up with a solution and like actually fix something. So obviously with the global warming, I call them melt icing, and I like everything with the and the ocean, and so and there's like a lot of problems, I guess you're aware. So and the biggest contributor, well, it's probably one of the biggest contributors to the actual CO2 in the world that's affecting the climate and the global warming would be airplanes. So as you know, and they release a lot of CO2, and actually it's a fact that airplanes release 500 million tons of CO2 per year, and that is a lot to consider. So like it definitely needs to be fixed, and there needs to be a solution, because it's getting way out of hand. And to actually consider and to take everything into account, and to actually stabilize on the actual temperature and everything, and with it anticipated like future growth, it will probably take it's going to need an 8% reduction in like the CO2 and soot particles. So and one way we can like effectively just like significantly reduce this is by coming up with more advanced technology. So this could be like electric planes, so like it would be electric airplanes. So and so basically electric airplanes, they use and they replace the petrochemical consumption with like a cleaner electric battery that's like just powered with like electricity. So it's a lot more cleaner, and I can just like it's a lot more powerful as in the sense it provides a lot more advantages than a normal plane. So like with an electric airplane, you've got there's no noise. It's a lot quieter for like for airports of like people, and obviously the biggest advantage is like the CO2, because it releases zero CO2 emissions, and it's and this could be it could be public. It's estimated to be public in the next 20 years or so. Yeah. And but I do have to admit there are some challenges to actually to overcome this, because with electric airplanes we've got obviously it's increasing the it's like and kind of one problem it might be like the technical one of boosting efficiency. I think obviously and the kerosene is a good source of energy, but you can't always be like charging an airplane like in flight. If you like if there's already like a plane that's already flying somewhere, you can't like charge the source of energy. So it'd be quite difficult for that. And the second would be there's also a strict safety certification that new hybrid electric power engines would have to go through. So obviously and there's like a long process for that, and it's very it could be very it's very it's long-winded, but it can happen. So we just need to see like there's a bright future ahead, and we just need to see like what's best for people in like terms of the airplanes. And yes, it's just I think, and the way that and the technology is going now, it is going to be like a lot more refined. But it could be like the chance that in the next 25 years, the CO2 it could like triple, or like even possibly quadruple, because it's just getting really bad. So obviously we've got to take everything into account, and it should be done.
Has anybody got questions they'd like to ask?
With electric planes. With electric cars, the range of an electric car is like way too short for it to like be a viable replacement like currently.
Yeah.
Is the same true for electric aeroplanes, or like?
It's like the cost, do you mean?
No, like how far they can fly.
How far they can fly? Well. Obviously, and we've got like, and the advanced technology needed for it. It needs like, I need to see the amount of electricity. Like it's like I said, like the kerosene. We need to overcome that thing where it's a good source of energy, and it's really good, but you can't charge it while you're like in flight. You can't. It's not possible to charge it. So we might need to come up with a thing where we have to like, we've got to make sure that it's like, and there's like. It's like an effective and efficient solution where, and the electricity can last longer than, and the and the longest plane that's ever travelled. So I think it is viable. It is viable that I can travel far, but it's just like the source of energy. It needs to be thought about because you can't charge something like when you're flying, can you? And that's what electric planes need. They need like a source of energy. They need to be charged, and they don't have fuel like normal planes. So, yeah.
So, to back what you were saying earlier, you already mentioned how much it's going to increase. Yeah, just my statistics I've got here back that up that people travelling nearly double. But I was wondering if you actually had any examples of if there's anything like. Is there any work going on that at present, or is that just a concept that's being spitballed?
And obviously you've got the FedEx and the actual project as done by the FedEx, which has like I call companies like Rolls-Royce and the other companies that's like essentially pitching in to make this happen. It is like possible where that there's probably going to be a plane ticket available for you to buy in the next 20 years that you could go on an electric plane, and it is very possible. So, but like second thing to note that it will be a lot cheaper because and for people to spend and for the actual plane to actually travel, like it would be a lot more cheaper than if it was just a normal modern day airplane. So in the next 20 years, if it would be possible for you to like actually go on an electric plane, you'd probably have to pay like far less than you normally would if you were to go on a plane right now. So
yeah. Is that all questions?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So for my section, I wanted to talk more about how during a sustainable society, if it was completely sustainable, we would have a lot less pollution and emissions, and we'd be a lot more eco-friendly in a way. And like you guys were also talking about how the planes are a big benefactor to this pollution which is causing our environment to degrade and sort of break away. I feel like personally one of the biggest current and ever-changing effects is the aerodynamics of planes. Now, more recently than ever, we've had the wing tips on our planes. They've been curved back up again. Now, originally they were designed after a bird's wing. So, for example, a bald eagle, as it's flying, its tips of its wings would be pointing up. Now, to begin with, we just designed our planes like that for the thought that the more like a bird it is, the more likely it is to fly. However, we then took away the tips, but realised that their aerodynamics, the way they divide the difference in pressures from the upper wing and the lower wing, massively reduces turbulent flow of air. And what we find is, for example, the Boeing A320, they have recently sort of remodeled it, and their new model is 15% more fuel efficient than before. And we're talking same engines, same capacities, but slightly different body model. And in my opinion, that's great proof that with aerodynamics, we can massively reduce the emissions we're creating, because the higher the efficiency, the less fuel we use, the less emissions produced. It's sort of like a chain, isn't it, really? And I find that as an example is a great reason why it is a good effect. However, I also do really like the idea of the air brakes that they've designed as well, because when we were designing them, we thought, well, we could use the reverse thrust of the engines to slow us down. Now, even though we do still use reverse thrusting to slow us down, to slow planes down, what we found out is using the air brakes, it's such a sort of a free way to slow down. It doesn't cost us fuel, doesn't cost us too much energy, but it's extremely effective.
To decrease the. Never mind, carry on.
Yeah.
I was going to say something that's spotty there, but.
Yeah, that's alright, no problem. And so the fact that engineers have developed and re-innovated the shapes and the sort of the aerodynamics and the way the wing works to slow down or keep it flying is, I think, it's a huge part, because the fuel saved from not using reverse thrust braking is huge. Because you think about how much energy we need to reduce a plane from its velocity to a landing velocity. It's quite a hefty amount of energy, but we use the energy of the wind, and obviously wind energy to move the air brakes, but that comparatively to the energy we needed from the chemicals that we'd use to burn would be nearly incomparable. So with those points together, I feel like sort of the aerodynamics of the plane is one of the most sort of not modern, but like one of the easiest ways and the simplest ways, but yes, one of the most effective ways to reduce our pollution and ultimately help towards building a sustainable society. Anyone got any questions?
Yeah, I've got one question. So you previously said to me that it was actually introduced at first, but then it was taken off, and then it was reintroduced later on. And my question, can be, why was it like taken off in the first place? Was there like any problems? Was there like any things like technology?
So they had a brief period where they thought that it was actually more efficient to have the wings sort of flat, because I'm sure some of you remember the flat wing planes where you just have your wing and then slope off to more of like a point at the end rather than curving back up. And for a time they thought that those were the most efficient, the easiest way, because they cut through the air quicker, sort of thing. But it turns out that they do cut through the air quicker, but even though it does produce a little bit of drag having the point up, the difference in between the pressures caused so much like turbulent airflow that completely eradicated the effects that the flat wing would have. Therefore they decided, well, let's reintroduce it and let's get our efficiency as good as we can.
Okay, that's good.
Any other questions?
Your point about the air brakes.
You lost it.
There was a question.
I was thinking, it was related to what I was going to say earlier, which completely escaped my mind. I apologise for interrupting.
No problem.
But it was about, so air brakes have been used on aircraft for many years now, even starting with gliders, I guess. Is there anything about the A320?
Yeah.
Air brakes that made them any particularly good?
Well, the A320 worked more around the actual remodelling of the design. However, obviously, the more powerful pistons we have, the more power, the more energy we can supply to them, the greater force they can sustain. Also, our material engineers are working on stronger, more durable materials that can withstand the heavy force of the air colliding with it. So, even though back when planes were brand new, the difference in materials, structures, and ways we use these air brakes is just the way we re-engineer it is just huge. It's like we've had like car engines for years and years, but we just keep re-innovating it to make it better and better and better. And that's what we're doing with these air brakes as well. We're just trying to get them so they're the best they can be.
So you'd say it's similar to, I guess, my engine point, which is it's improvement by iteration.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
But yeah, I think all of our points are pretty good. So as a consensus, I'd sort of say we'd agree that there are loads of points that can affect the sort of efficiency, sustainability, environmental factors of a plane, but it's kind of hard to just pick out one that's the most important, unless anyone here has anything they'd like to.
I'd say that they're almost all equally important. Like you need to go down as many roads as possible to try. There's no way you're going to innovate unless you try. There's the old-fashioned style of doing things by iteration, and as with your point about fuels, if you don't try it, then there's no way you're going to find out if it's better or not.
I think that with all this kind of stuff, it's very technology based, that we need to find more people, because this is all about innovation. This is all about the more advanced technology that we're going to need in the next 100 years, because obviously, as we know, and CO2 levels in the past 105 years, in the past 150 years has gone up by 35%, and that is obviously a lot. And the thing we're trying to do is just change the next 100 years. So we need I need a lot of manpower, obviously. I need a lot of work into this, a lot of innovation, a lot of creative thinking and stuff like that. To make a better, brighter, and refined future.
So, thank you. Yeah, I'll do.